Imagine FIFA give you the gift of qualifying for the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup, and then they put you in a group with Manchester City, Juventus, and Al. You guessed it, we're going to talk about Wydad Athletic Club of Casablanca coming up next on the African Five-A-Side Podcast. Hello, welcome to another episode of the African Five-A-Side Podcast. I'm your host, Maher Mezahi. As always, this podcast is brought to you by africasacountry.com. I'm going to keep talking about it, but next week, I'm going to be in Nairobi, Kenya for the Africa as a Country Festival. We're going to be launching our very first physical edition magazine. So again, if you really want to help out this channel, Africa as a Country, when this magazine comes out, you'd be doing us a big favor if you did purchase a copy. I think the writing in it is incredible. The design is second to none. I think it's a really nice piece to have anyways, just to read and to maybe collect. But it would also be helping us out if you guys did want to purchase that. And if not, and if you're in Nairobi, just come out to some of the events that you can see now on the screen. I'd love to meet up with any and everyone there. But let's talk about Wydad de Casablanca and preview this participation for the most successful club in Morocco. It's a club that via its stature and via its status should be at this tournament. But in the last 24 months, I don't think there's anybody that would argue that they deserve to be here if we're taking specifically that period of time into account. The problems really began when the current coach of the Moroccan national team, Walid Regragui, left the club. When he was there, they won the CAF Champions League title in 2022. He had, built a really interesting squad with a lot of experienced players that went on. Two of them are at Al Ahly right now, Yahya Hadiyatullah and Ashraf Dari, playing at the Club World Cup. A lot of just good players all around, solid, cohesive unit. And what happens is the Moroccan national team, they need a coach because they don't think that they're going to have success with Vahid Halilodzic because, his personality is a little too rough around the edges. And so they say, please, can you come help us out? Last minute, we know, and we know the rest is history. Morocco go on this legendary run. He wins the job permanently, of course. And now he's looking to lead them into their second AFCON participation and maybe the second World Cup in 1 year's time. But when he leaves, there's a huge amount of instability. There's a power vacuum. Initially, they replaced him with Hussein Amouta, who was a very well-respected Moroccan coach with a lot of experience. And I think anybody would say, that's a pretty good replacement. Amouta at the time, him and Regragui were sort of seen as like maybe the 1 and 2, 1A, 1B of local Moroccan coaches. But Amouta only lasts like 3-4 months and leaves. And then they start going through a cycle of coaches. And I'm going to credit my friend Hamza Rahmani, who mentioned this on his French radio show a few weeks back. But he said, guess how many coaches Wydad have gone through over the last 3 years? Not even 3 years, 34 months, something like that. 12. And I can actually list them for you guys right here. So after Regragui, we have Hussein Amouta. And then we have, just give me a second, Hassan Ben Abisha, Mehdi Nafti, Juan Carlos Garrido, Sven Vandenbroek, Adil Ramzi, Fawzi Ben Zerti, Aziz Ben Askar, Ghulani Mokwena, and now we have the current coach, Mohamed Amin Ben Hashim. 12 coaches in 34 months. And he said, guess how many coaches Liverpool FC have had in 132 years? 22. 12 would have been a nice statistic if it was the exact same number, but it's not the same number. But still, it gives you perspective of the kind of stability that like some great clubs have, in Europe, and the short-termism that we have in North African football, unfortunately, where everybody's always too quick to pull the trigger. People tend to have long-term visions, but it also reflects the instability at the administrative level for Wydad Casablanca, because what happens is they were backed for many, many years by Saeed Nassiri, who was the president of the club, and he's like this, I don't know how we'd describe him as a figure, but like we could definitely call him powerful. I could definitely say he's well-connected. Very passionate about Wydad. But Nassiri was caught up in at least some legal troubles. I believe it was linked to money laundering and even a few other things that are a little less glamorous. I don't even think he's been judged yet, so I don't know what's going on there. But the point is that the all-powerful president is no longer president, and there's another vacuum there. So you have the coaching vacuum, You have the president vacuum. He's replaced by a fellow named Hisham Eitmenna, who's an MP, member of parliament in Morocco, who had done a good job uh, at a few other smaller Moroccan clubs, and now he sort of steps up to take on Wydad. He's younger, and according to some people that I've spoken to, more of a visionary, but he's only been in charge for about a year, so it's difficult to judge him. So the instability at the board level, plus the instability at the coaching level, means that there's going to be, of course, instability in terms of roster construction and player usage. Um, Hisham Eitmenna brings in Vulani Mokoena, the South African coach, the young star. Uh, Mokoena inherits in his squad two starters from the year prior: Yusuf Mutia, the goalkeeper, and Jamal Harkas. That's it. So he basically has to build an entire new roster, an entire new squad, which I think he wanted to anyways, because he has specific ideas about how he wants to play football. So I think for him, you got give him a blank slate, and he's going to be happy with that. Um, but just to tell you the point, like they're really building from ground zero a year ago, at the beginning of this last season. Um, just currently reconstructing and reconstructing and reconstructing. I think Mokoena built some solid bases, but ultimately didn't achieve his goal, which was to get Wydad back into Champions League football, because 2 years ago they didn't even qualify for any African uh, interclub competition, whether it's the Champions League or the Confederation Cup. And this last year, Mokoena helped them to a third place finish, which was good enough for a Confederation Cup, but they were 3 points away. Well, Mokoena and Ben Hashim, 3 points away from making the CAF Champions League, which ASFAR did, and Ars Berkane were obviously champions. Um, so yeah, Mokoena didn't meet his objectives, decided to go the separate ways with the club. Mohamed Amin bin Hashim comes in, initially on an interim basis. There was 3 matches left in the season when it became clear that Wydad weren't going to qualify for the CAF Champions League. And in those 3 matches, he wins all 3 matches. And I think some of them were difficult matches. I believe they played against ASFAR Rabat. Um, and Eitmenna loves this coach. He says, he's Wydadi in his spirit. And some people I speak to like his teams in Zamamra. They think he's one of the brightest young minds in Moroccan football. Pays attention to the little details in the game, things like set pieces, kickoff routines, things like that. So the thing is, we don't. He's only been in charge for three games. We don't really know what to expect of Ben Hashim, and now we don't even really know what to expect of the Wydad squad, because prior to this Club World Cup, a huge influx of money. They bring in older brother of former Manchester United midfielder Sofiane Amrabat, Nourdine Amrabat. They bring him in, 38 years old. They bring in a Syrian striker named Maher Mezahi, 36 years old. They bring in a Dutch defender, Bart Myers, 28 years old, and Stefan Aziz Ki from Burkina Faso, 28 years old as well. They brought in a few other players, but those are, I think, the main pieces. And some of these players, by the way, like Omar Solah, they're only going to be here for the Club World Cup, and then they're going back to their clubs. Or like Nourdine Amrabat, he's here for the entire year. But this weird transfer window where clubs can pretty much loan players for 2 months, have them play in their Club World Cup, and then send them away. So the Wydad that we're seeing here might not necessarily be the Wydad that we see at the beginning of the Botola in about 2 months' time. So, yeah, we don't really know what to expect for Wydad. That's the main. If we boil everything down, what can we expect from Wydad Casablanca at the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup? Nobody has any clue. Not the players, not the fans, not the people in the squad, nothing, I don't think. And it doesn't help that they're in the group of death for them. They're coming up against Manchester City today, Juventus in a few days, and then the Asian champions 2 years ago, Al Ain from the United Arab Emirates. A really cool subplot, by the way, is that Al Ain, they have Sufyan Rahimi is their star player, and his younger brother, they just signed his younger brother, Hussein Rahimi. And if you know about anything about the Rahimi brothers, they came through Raja Casablanca. That was their father was the groundskeeper for Raja, so they would live in the annex next to the training ground. Their older sister, her name is Raja. The current older brother right now is the current groundskeeper at Raja Casablanca. It's like a family that just lives and breathes and eats Raja. And obviously they both came through Raja. They won titles with Raja and everything, and then now they moved to the Emirates, and now they're playing against Wydad in the Club World Cup. So it's like a mini Casablanca derby between the Rahimi brothers and Wydad. But that was just an aside, just a cool little side narrative that yeah, people might not know. But yeah, uncertainty everywhere. The only things that I would say are there's areas of the pitch where maybe we're not so uncertain. I think the center halves, Abdelmonem Boutouil, former Sundown center half, and Jamal Harkas, who has been called up with the Moroccan national team on several occasions, has, I thought, performed okay, even though I think on one occasion in Wydad he was booed. But I thought he performs okay. Like that center half pairing, I think, is very, very good. And that's a sure commodity. Mohamed Reihi, the winger from the Dutch Moroccan winger on the left flank, probably their most efficient player, the best attacking player last season. He also is a sure commodity for me. Um, when I look at the goalkeeper, Ben Abid, I think he's proved himself over the last few months as a sure commodity as well. So some players we know like are going to step up and play well, but for everybody else, we just don't know. And so it's going to be a shorter preview here. Apologies, but there's nothing really to analyze in that sense. I think the main issue now is going to be as much as we talked about Esperance being disappointing and how they were playing reactive football, and Sundowns not so much, as they kept their foot on the ball and tried to control the match and its tempo and its possession. Wydad, I think they have no choice but to be reactive here. Now it's just about being smart when you're reactive, not conceding too much. I mean, space and time and possession. When you attack, make sure you're sharp with your counterattacks, no wasted movements, making sure your set pieces count against these clubs, and relying on your fan base, because in Philadelphia, there are a lot of Wydad Casablanca fans. Everywhere they play, they're going to show up, like Esperance supporters did, like Al Ahly supporters did as well. So they can try to lean on that, and that could be a big boost, because I've said this time and time again, the best atmosphere that I had experienced at an African club football match was the 2022 CAF Champions League final between Wydad and Al Ahly. Just being in that Mohammed V stadium, my ears are still ringing when I think about it. It was incredible, and just the unison and how every single person in that stadium was singing every song. I think they're gonna shock a lot of people at the Club World Cup, just from the passion of their fans. But anyways, we'll leave it there for now. We'll check in after the match to recap it, and then I promise you these vlogs are coming. So just gonna recap the match, and then today I have 24 hours of rest. So focus on the vlogs, take it easy, do some laundry, and tomorrow Al Ahly versus Palmeiras, but at noon. So I have 24 hours. Feel like that for me right now, that feels like saying you have 2 years. So that's how intense all of this has been. But thank you all for supporting. Thank you all for watching. Please, if you have been enjoying this content, do like, do subscribe, do comment. And we'll speak to you all very, very soon, just in a few hours' time. Peace.